What scandal is currently happening in the world of your niche interest that the general public would probably have no idea about? The former head of Oxford's papyrus collection stole some biblical papyri and sold them to the Hobby Lobby people, and may have lied about their dates to make them seem older than they are. There's a lettuce shortage right now. Judges of Irish dance competitions were caught trading sex acts for scores. "Ass in the air" is the new catchphrase of the entire organization, thanks to one judge's particularly graphic text messages. Guy who runs the most prolific Area 51 website got raided by the feds. For the record, I don't think there are aliens there or that aliens crashed in NM in 1947. But I am very curious what he did come across that garnered that response. Not really a scandal, but UPS trucks come from the factory with air conditioning, but they send them off to have it removed. Almost every year some drivers get heat stroke and have died. Removed. Not really a scandal, but a paleontologist put out a paper that split Tyrannosaurus rex into 3 species, T. rex, T. regina, and T. imperator. Folks generally thought it was bullshit, and another paleontologist put out a paper that argues against the original paper, but it's sort of ongoing and it's whack. Dirk Obink, one of the leading scholars in Greco-Roman magic and classics, and an Oxford University faculty member, was suspended in 2019 for allegedly selling ancient papyrus fragments to the Museum of the Bible, which is run by the people who founded Hobby Lobby. There is a nationwide shortage of Adderall, leading to a lot less niche focus than usual. Yuji Naka, co-creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, was arrested for insider trading. More schadenfreude than scandal, but web-based algorithmic house flippers are losing their asses holding houses they paid too much for, thinking real estate would always go up. People who use Photoshop will start having to pay to use Pantone colors. The CEO of Nissan is a fugitive wanted in the alleged abuse of corporate assets and money laundering. The company lost 99% of their profit in 2019, had a 145% decline in profit for 2021 and a 338% decline in 2022. Gundam Builder World Cup judging has been very questionable this year, to the point that blatant copies of previous winners are taking home first prize. Simon & Schuster sold 900 signed $600 copies of Bob Dylan's new book, which were promptly proven to have been signed with AutoPen. After much denying, and now some backpedaling, they have refunded everyone, but only because they were stupid enough to give everyone a letter guaranteeing them to be hand-signed. Because their stance is that it's still an authentic signature just penned by machine. For the past 2 years, DJs within a subgenre of EDM have been losing fans and gigs over various sexual misconduct, domestic abuse allegations. Some have tried to come back and all have failed. The last wave of allegations involved at least 6 artists stepping away. Mercedes is attempting to start a trend that needs to be stopped before it starts. They are going to charge a subscription for a performance mode on their EV. We must not let this go anywhere. In rugby, the tiny nation of Georgia managed to beat Wales in rugby in Cardiff. This is the culmination of years of neglect from the Welsh Rugby Union, as Wales not too long ago were one of the best teams in the world. Our hobby drama literally was created as a result of the last time this question was asked. This year, the winners of the Lake Erie Walleye Trail Fishing Tournament in Ohio got caught cheating by adding lead weights to their catch. The current Argentine vice presidents, C. Kirchner, vast family wealth, billions of USD, which was collected, stolen through decades of government corruption by her and her husband, former President Mr. Kirchner. The money is still unreturned, and the multiple trials for corruption and fraudulent administration committed by Mrs. Kirchner are yet to be concluded after years of investigations. How has no one mentioned Mercedes and BMW offering subscription services for things like unlocking your car's power and heated seats for a huge fee every month? That's legitimately daylight robbery. There was a well-known jiu-jitsu instructor who was arrested for the sexual assault of a 16-year-old female student. Then the owner of the gym, who is a very well-known instructor and athlete, was accused of being aware of the misconduct and trying to cover it up. Some TikTok creators are giving things to homeless people for clout and then taking them away right after they stop recording. It's horrible. The producers of Magic: The Gathering cards have released a new product costing 55 times as much as the normal product, and it's not even tournament legal. The product will be bought up by speculators and will ensure the company continues creating preventatively expensive products that will continue to generate record profits, while alienating more and more of the player base. Hans Niemann, a chess grandmaster, is suing the former world champion Magnus Carlsen, Chess.com, and another grandmaster for $100 million for defamation among other things. Banned social media influencer sneaks into roller coaster and amusement attraction trade show, IAAPA, and causes a scene. The infamous, insulin is now free tweet. It's amazing. A single tweet is shaking the insulin industry, and making the CEO of one of the largest producers in the country rethink lowering the cost of the medication. Mom and pop owners of trailer parks are retiring and want to sell. Congress passed a law to make it easier for the tenants to pool their money together and get inexpensive loans to buy their park. But a loophole in the law means that giant corporations are the ones actually buying the parks are raising tents sky high or plowing them under. This is a little old, but people are still salty about it. At 2022 Winter Olympics, Max Perrott shouldn't have won men's snowboarding slopestyle, much less been on the podium. On his gold medal run, he missed a grab and it should have counter as a failed trick. Darts World Championship adjusted rules basically to ensure that a very popular and pretty female darter made it into the tournament. I love Fallon Sherrock and will be glad to watch her at the tourney, but it's a fairly ham-fisted move by the governing body. We are in the middle of a polar shift. From 1900 to 1990 the North Pole moved more than the previous 500 years. From 1990 to now, it has moved more than the previous 590 years. Panini is stacking boxes for sports card influencers. I mean, it's become more and more obvious to even the most uninitiated, but Wizards of the Coast, a part of Hasbro, has been absolutely slaughtering their #1 Golden Goose Magic: The Gathering, a trading card game created by Richard Garfield. In the CrossFit world there was a fairly young athlete competing at the CrossFit Games this year. Everyone loved her for her grit and determination during one of the particularly long, arduous events. I think she's 19. She just announced she's engaged to her coach. He's in his 40s and has coached her for like 6 years. 4080 pricing is sickening. A major cheerleading company, Varsity Spirit, is under fire due to monopoly and sexual assault allegations. Rape of a Kings Point cadet by a 60-year-old chief engineer and nothing productive being done about it. LA just outlawed all flavored nicotine vapes, including menthol cigarettes. The influencers are about to riot. There will be blood in the streets. The original Green Power Ranger just died by suicide. Not even the actor wants to play my favorite character again. The devalidation of the genus Trudon and splitting it into Latenivenatrix and Stenonychosaurus. Trudon is a 160-year-old genus and relatively well-liked. A company I investigated earlier this year has not only found themselves in trouble with the SEC, but they screwed over the president of Venezuela and defrauded hundreds of millions of dollars from a Canadian bank. It's been a thing, but how nothing really came about the Maxwell trial. Alabama put a moratorium on lethal injection because they once again had to stop an execution after 3 hours of looking for a vein. That Dr. Shiva proved that tech companies gave backdoors for government to censor stuff. My niche interest is technology and social media. The proliferation of very expensive pre-trial supervision requirements if you're accused of a crime. Courts here are requiring GPS or alcohol monitoring, or both, that routinely costs over $300 per month for people who have been cited but not yet convicted of any crime. This practice violates the long-standing legal principle of presumption of innocence. Here in the Netherlands it is almost impossible to get a roof over your head if you don't have amazing family and/or friends. Or €1 million on your bank account. A company bought out a ski resort in the eastern UP and shut down the main snowmobile trail through there, cutting off a whole section of the UP from snowmobile travel and potentially crippling a whole slew of businesses. The Arab Gulf is still at war while World Cup takes place. This question has made me realize my interests are boringly unscandalous. I am not sure this is really considered niche. But I do know not a lot of people follow Disney news the way I do. If you do, or are even slightly interested in Disney as a company, you know this already. But for those who don't, the CEO Bob Chapek is out, and Bob Iger is stepping in as temporary CEO for 2 years until they find a replacement. Ren Fairs have learned that LARPers are generally underemployed, have their own costumes, and are passionate about medieval shit, and have been reaching out to us to staff fairs. The going rate is $50 per person per day, which is an absolute slave wage. There is a group of toy collectors in FB groups that are convinced that the high prices of vintage Polly Pockets are actually thinly veiled money laundering schemes.